Good evening, buenas noches, and thank you for tuning in. On behalf of all of us at the locally based, independently owned bookstore, Books and Books in Miami, Florida, and in partnership with Miami Book Fair, it's my pleasure to welcome you to a virtual evening with Steven Petrow to discuss Stupid Things I Won't Do When I Get Old. Steven Petrow is an award-winning journalist and author best known for his Washington Post and New York Times essays on aging, health, and civility. He's currently an opinion columnist covering manners and civil discourse for USA Today, and his 2019 TED Talk, 3 Ways to Practice Civility, has been viewed nearly 2 million times and translated into 16 languages. Steven regularly appears on television and radio. He's the author of 6 books, including Steven Petrow's Complete Gay and Lesbian Manners and Stupid Things I Won't Do When I Get Old. To moderate tonight's conversation, we're joined by Dear Abby, aka Jeanne Phillips, whose career as an advice columnist began at 14. Her mother, Pauline Phillips, had recently started writing a nationally syndicated advice column under the pseudonym Abigail Van Buren, as she helped her mother answer incoming letters from advice-seeking teens. Jeanne discovered that she truly loved the work. She wrote for the column behind the scenes until December 2000, when Pauline recognized her as co-creator of Dear Abby and officially retired. Today, Jeanne dispenses advice, offers comfort, and settles disputes with the same mix of wit and wisdom that endeared her mom to millions of readers and turned Dear Abby into a cultural icon. Throughout this evening's broadcast, you're invited to ask questions by using the Ask a Question feature at the bottom of the screen, and you can order your copy of Stupid Things I Won't Do When I Get Old from Books and Books below by pressing the green button. We appreciate each and every order and the generous donations from viewers everywhere. And now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guests to the virtual stage. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you, Christina. Hello, Jeanne.
Hi, gorgeous. How are ya?
I am just fine. Your lighting looks wonderful, and it is an honor to be sharing this virtual stage with you. Thank you for...
Believe me, honey, the honor is mutual, okay? I love what you did. Forgive me for talking business, but let me tell you, I loved your book. As a matter of fact, I read half of it on the plane ride, back from where I was visiting myself. I have to tell you, I just loved it. You are so concise, and you don't make anybody breaststroke through the verbiage. You get your point across so succinctly, and you're witty and you're sensitive, and I cannot believe how much of yourself that you were willing to reveal in this book. It really moved me, okay? That's the truth.
Thank you for that. And all the words you just used to describe this book, I could say about your columns. So I have to pay you a debt. You're my sister, but you're also my role model, and a role model for so many. So
you're very generous, and I love you for that. But honey, come on.
What, honey?
Anyway, I loved your book, and I was seeing some of myself in it, and I was seeing some of my parents in it. As I progressed through, and quite frankly, I found it deeply moving in some places. But I think I sold one of your books to my seatmate on the plane, because I started reading what you wrote about when one colors one's hair, which I admit even I am guilty of it. But honey, I just split a gut. And then my seat partner said, "Oh, what are you laughing at?" And so, of course, I went, "Gotta see this."
Well, I'm going to read.
You'll share it.
I'm going to read a little bit from that. I'm just going to tell folks out there, though, a little bit about how this book came to be, since it has sort of its own history, as every book does. And it started, Jeannie, when I was a little bit older than 50, and my parents were in their mid 70s. And I'm the firstborn, and I've always had a big mouth and kind of been a smart ass, and things that you wouldn't know anything about. So I was sort of watching them get older, and here I am, a journalist, so I'm taking notes, and I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do this better. It was like, it became a very long list that included, I won't stop rocking those too young for you outfits. I won't lie about my age. I won't join the organ recital, which is talking endlessly about our health issues. And so I had this list, and then because I often write about my personal life for the New York Times, it became a column. And it was under the more milquetoast title, Things I Will Do Differently When I Get Old. But what surprised me and my editor, Toby Villano, was it was on the most read list for 2 weeks. There were a lot of comments, and then people started sending me their own lists. And I have about 200 lists from readers. And so it was like, there's this phenomenon going on. There are all these snitch spies taking notes on their parents and their elders about what we're going to do better. And just to sort of make it a little bit less onerous, the point wasn't just to be snarky. In fact, the point was to make some pledges to myself. And I could see that's what other folks were doing too, because we wanted to sort of find ways to hold ourselves accountable and live a little bit better than some others. So that's kind of how the book came to be. And maybe I will read a little bit from that chapter. And I, as will become quickly apparent, used to color my hair, along with 11% of men my age, but I don't anymore. And here's why. So I took this vow when I was in my 30s, and this was after I'd been going to a dermatologist for a long time. And he had salt and pepper hair, great. And then one year I came in, and his hair was jet black. And I write, he did not look younger. He looked like someone desperately trying to look younger. So I vowed never to let that happen to me. So despite that vow, I have to admit, I caved as I approached the mid-century mark. My hair, I now say with embarrassment, had become my armor, my shield. Frankly, the most effective camouflage concealing my age, or so I thought. And I owe this strategy to Diane Sawyer. I love Diane. And we were co-hosting a benefit, and the platinum blonde journalist who had once upon a time won the Junior Miss Pageant gave me some unsolicited advice. And she said, anchors don't get older, they just get blonder. And actually, Sawyer, like me, started life as a brunette. But as one Hollywood hairstylist wrote in a blog post, Diane Sawyer's big break came when she changed her natural ash brown hair color to a glamorous honey blonde, and the rest is history. I'm actually skeptical that Sawyer's change of hair color transformed her from a beauty queen into an Emmy award-winning journalist, but I did take her advice seriously, and I took her advice to my hair cutter and hair colorist. So I went to this fellow. I call him Alejandro in the book, and I told him that I was taping a video series in a couple of days, and then he said, I have a natural coloring process that will remove 1/3 of your gray, and no one will notice, he promised. And it's semi-permanent, so if you don't like it, you could just wash it out. So I said yes to the new process, and before I knew it, Alejandro had mixed together a thick paste that overwhelmed the salon with the scent of ammonia. Massaged it into my scalp, let it set, and 30 minutes later, he rinsed it and dried it. Ta-da! I had no gray hair whatsoever. But what I did have was unexpected at best. I was a brash honey blonde whose hair now screamed dye job. Alejandro told me I looked fantastic. And one of his other clients desperately tried to help out, telling me, now your hair matches your eyebrows. Sure, if my eyebrows were the color of bananas. I drove home, and I have to say, so I was married to my husband at that point. He never paid any attention to my hair. And he said to me, what did you do? So I tried to wash it out. I must have washed it 10 times, nothing. And I went back the next day, and I got another chemical treatment. And now it was like all brassy here. It was all white on the top. And I had to go to New York to do this taping. So my friend Vicky, who I call my personal Eloise, recommended a Fifth Avenue color correction specialist. She squeezed me in at 8 a.m. the next morning. So I arrived with evidence, bringing her a handful of photos of my real hair color, which was not my real hair color, of course. And she examined the damage with a series of long sighs. This is nothing short of permanent. And then she proceeded to painstakingly hand color my hair, clusters of damaged strands at a time. 2 hours later, she declared it a masterpiece and charged me $400.
Wow.
And that is why I learned there are ATM machines in some of these fancy hair salons. I did not walk around with $400, and they did not take credit cards or Venmo. So anyway, fast forward. In the end, all this hair drama helped me to become more compassionate about my dermatologist's own error, because no one's hair should be the center of attention. Of course, I could have heeded the advice of a fortune cookie I cracked open years ago and saved myself a lot of trouble and $400.
I love it.
That fortune cookie read, "A man who dyes his hair badly looks desperate." So this chapter is really about coming to terms with one's authentic self. And a lot of the women who I've spoken to as part of this book tour, have kind of pushed back on me on hair coloring. So take that as a metaphor, because there's certainly a gender difference here. But I think coming to this acceptance of who we are, what our age is, and the experience that we bring with that is so important for us and for our health.
Well, I was born a brunette, honey, and I decided that the real me was blonde around age 30.
Well, I think you and Diane Sawyer are in the same class.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I'll run with that.
Yeah.
But on a more serious vein, I mean, you really get into some stuff. And I'm really impressed with some of the things that you chose to reveal. Your journey certainly hasn't been, a bed of roses. Mm-hmm. And I think you've handled it with great class.
Thank you. Jeannie, it felt since I was writing a book about my parents and some of their foibles that I had to make myself vulnerable too, because otherwise I would be this narrator that everybody hated. And I've read those books. And, and one thing that really pleased me was in some of the reviews and from some readers was the book has been called a love letter to my parents. You might not have thought that sort of from Stupid Things I Won't Do When I Get Old and from calling them out about various things that they did. So, as part of that process, I talk about my relationship with them. In one chapter, this still pains me because my mother was diagnosed with dementia. But before we knew what her condition was, I just thought she wasn't paying attention because sometimes she hadn't paid attention. And I remember I'm standing in the kitchen of their house, and the phone rings, and a friend of mine is calling, and she says, "May I speak with Steven?" And my mom is right here next to me, and she says to Holly, "Oh, Steven's not here." And I said, Mom, I'm here." And she kind of looked at me. It's the first time I saw that look. It was a little bit of that blank look, and I was not nice to her in that moment. And so that's part of, that's kind of where I started. Eventually, she did get a diagnosis. And then sort of concurrently, ironically, my Jack Russell Terrier became demented, had dementia. And I would see that little dog stand in the corner and just howl. And I realized she needed me to love her and accept her the way she was. And that's what I understood that my mother needed as well. So I stopped arguing with her about what day it was, about whether it was here or not, whether her granddaughter had made dinner. And this was about accepting her for who she was. And so that's part of our family history. And I've been open because so many of the topics in this book, some of them are funny, some of them are substantive and challenging, but I'm trying to bring humor to a lot of these topics because they're hard for us to talk about, and we're afraid to. So I am pleased that by bringing some humor and some honesty to these topics, that others are able to say, oh, I can do it that way too, or I can try this. And that's kind of really an important point of the book.
Well, I think your book is filled with wonderful advice to people who are not only, facing their parents' mortality and aging process, but possibly their own as well. You said something in that book that just resonated. You said a whole lot of things that resonated with me clearly. But you're talking about how people really don't want to think about how people like me don't want to think about their own mortality. It really is kind of icky to think, what do I want with the disposition of my body? Am I going to will myself to science, or am I going to, look for a place and, look for a lovely place to be left in the ground? Speaking for myself, I want to go up in a puff of smoke and a hearty high-o silver, I think.
Okay. Well, I hope you have documented that in a document.
I thank you for suggesting that. Yes, I have already. But this is a document I think that's continually being refined. Just because I cast it in granite once doesn't mean I can't, chip away at it and polish it up a little if I want.
Absolutely. And yeah, so the last part of the book is it's a little bit about that planning for what I call the end. The end of the big story, the end of the movie.
Or the beginning. Exactly.
Well, we're kind of Jews, so I don't know that it's the beginning exactly, but whatever. So the book does not have like documents you need to fill out, but it's really ways to sort of talk about those things, and thinking about what you want and communicating that to the people that you love. And so that can be everything from how you might want a memorial or funeral service to go. And because I'm a little neurotic, I think when I was 35, I took this manila folder and I have it, and it says SP, my initials, / memorial service. And I just throw things in there. My family thinks I'm crazy. It's not the most organized tool, but I have in there that I want the theme song from the Mary Tyler Moore Show to be played. Love is all around. I want this, I want that. But basically, I'm trying to help out the next generation so they don't have to go through, what did he want? Let's try to figure that out. Or, with the house, trying to start to get rid of things so that others don't have to do what my siblings and I did with my parents, which was to clean out 2 houses and, throw out a lot of stuff and a lot of the emotional stuff. So, yeah. So, but it's hard to, it's hard to talk about those things. And I was in Winston-Salem and I was talking about this topic, and this woman came up to me after, and she had a loose leaf binder. And these were her directives to her kids. And she said, I swap pages out all the time, and it was like this big. And I was like, you have really taken, this to heart. That's like the Bible of the end planning. And I was like, she can change it whenever she wants. So I commend you, and I commend that woman.
Well, we all have to do that, particularly an advanced directive for healthcare. What do you want? What don't you want? And make it clear, because otherwise someone may step in and think for you and give you something exactly the opposite of what you wanted.
Exactly. So,
but enough about death. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about the organ recital.
Okay. So the organ recital is probably my favorite chapter. And it is a phrase that is used to describe people generally over 50 who are obsessed with talking about their aches and pains, their ailments, whatever is troubling them. And I think when we were younger, we talked about our kids, and we talked about our relationships, our vacations, our jobs. And then you get to this stage and, all we seem to be talking about are our illnesses. And so I caution people against doing that. And the reason is, imagine you're with mixed company, and you see all these 50 plus folks just going on and on about all this stuff. And they're going to go, yeah, these crazy old people, that's all they talk about, that's who they are. But what I learned from some of the research that I did is that it's really damaging to us as well. So when we sort of start absorbing these negative stereotypes about aging and ageism, called casual ageism, it affects us. And it hurts our health, it hurts our mental health. In the most extreme cases, we may live longer, sometimes 7.5 years less, when we think getting older is a bad thing. So through all these stories that I'm telling, I'm trying to just kind of highlighting the decisions we make along the road that we can actually tweak. And the point of tweaking them is to make the idea of getting older a positive, to focus on the experience that we have, the joy that we have, the children or grandchildren, and sometimes the memories, because we all have memories at this time too. And that will leave us in a much better place health-wise than not doing so.
Well, thank you for sharing that wisdom as well.
You're very welcome. And,
now talk about the age card. I ain't going to play the age card.
So I don't know about you, and I don't know that you've ever done this, but I have seen some entitled older folks, I'm calling them entitled, who can be very demanding and, and think that not only are they due the benefits of their AARP card, which of course anyone who is a member of that is entitled to, but is entitled to more. And I'm thinking about this one interview that I did where there's a website where you can buy all kinds of things that are discounted. From blow dryers.
Wait a minute, share.
It's called Brad's Deals.
Thank you.
And so from blow dryers to cookware to diamond. And
thank you.
I guess there was a limit on the number of diamonds that an individual could buy. And so this older person just went sort of ballistic online. And felt like she deserved to be able to buy as many diamonds, which, as far as I know, are not a requirement for our nutrition or otherwise good health. So this chapter is kind of a caution to us not to overplay that card, and to also think about the other generations that we interact with. And a year or two ago, there was this whole sort of movement where millennials were saying this phrase, "Okay, boomer," as a way to diss boomers. And a lot of boomers were very unhappy with being talked to like this, because we wanted to be referred to with respect. But the millennials and others, they had a point. We created a world, and we've left a world that has many challenges for them, from climate change to civility to all sorts of things. And so, we might not have done as good a job as we can. And but I don't want the generations to be warring. I want the generations to find ways to connect with each other. And so don't play the age card, and don't call me okay boomer, are kind of the two parts of that. Okay, boomer?
How dare you?
I know.
I'll own it. I'll own that. What the heck?
Hey, can I ask you a question, Jeannie?
Anything.
So I am just sure that people in the audience are wondering about that beautiful necklace, and they may be wondering about what's behind you on the ledge there. Do you mind?
No, I don't mind at all. Over here is a candid shot of my late beloved husband, Walter Harris, who passed away 1 year and 5 months ago. And here, that's Mama, photogenic person that she was, as well as smart as heck. And this is a flag that was given to me at the Pentagon by the Secretary of the Navy, Gordon England, because of Operation DearAbby.net, which took the old Operation Dear Abby, which was cards and letters to the troops at holiday time. Walter helped me to get it online so that it was able to, these messages from people were able to be beamed all over the world and under the ocean, wherever these people were serving on submarines, without fear of somebody sending them a poisoned postcard or something, which at that time was a very real worry.
Yeah.
So these are some of my mementos, and then of course there's one over here. Let me see if I can get it. And it's sort of a takeoff on a Modigliani, but it's from Overeaters Anonymous.
Oh, that the statue.
Yes.
The sculpture.
And those are my mementos. And this was given to me by a friend. It belonged to his mother. And, he was divesting himself slowly of things that had belonged to his mom. And so he gave me this and a set of earrings to match. And I just love them. And I wear a lot of black. And it works. And it's sort of a love gift. And I wore it for luck today.
Well, as I told you when we were in the green room, I'm very jealous.
Well, I'll loan it to you on occasion.
Okay.
You're just a doll. It's so good to be able to see your sweet face and to be able to spend some time with you.
Well, likewise. And, folks out there don't know, we've known each other for about 10 years. We only met about a month ago.
Yeah, in the flesh.
In the flesh.
I already knew I loved you. The only missing piece was the flesh.
I know.
And I think you're adorable. At least anyway, that from my heart to yours, it's most sincere. And Mama always taught me that, if you think something nice, why not share it? And it's sort of something I live by. So I'm telling you that you're adorable. And what I really am impressed with is not just on the outside, but there's so much beauty within. And I'm glad to count you as my friend.
Well, likewise. And,
Thank you.
It's, our friendship it's been an honor, but it's been fun. It's been rich. It's been sad at times. You've taught me one very important thing, just one.
What was it?
Well, you kind of berate me because I hate using the phone, and I have learned, and this is really kind of a really good civility point, because your preferred mode of conversation is conversation on the phone, and
I'm not texting. Please, God, save me from the.
I would rather text than talk to anybody but you, and so part of what I think we do in our professional worlds is to encourage people to listen to those whom they care about.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for saying that. I didn't mean to trap you into a mode of communication that makes you uncomfortable. It's just that for me, I type so badly with my thumbs and my fingers on that little keyboard. Just forget it. And some of the typos are actually very embarrassing. And it just seems to me that a conversation goes much more quickly and efficiently if you're doing it, on the phone. If you can't do it like this, face to face to face. Mwah.
Well, I do keep your emails, and like everyone's, they have some misspellings. And if I ever need to blackmail you, I'll just go to the Google and put them up there.
Oh, you're so bad.
I am digressing.
Okay. Back to the book.
Exactly.
Folks, this is the most wonderful read, and certainly a worthwhile read. And I was so glad to be able to, and I'm so glad to be able to be here to tell you that it really has my A1 endorsement.
Well, I thought I would read a little bit from another chapter.
Oh, yeah.
If that's all right. And so this one is from the section called The End. And I'll kind of tee it up. I went to Duke, and when I was a student back then, I was friends with a woman named Jackie Zinn, and we were classmates. And then probably 25 years later, we wound up going to the same gym in Chapel Hill, and we became very good friends. And we would compete on the spinning bikes. She always won. She just always won. I'm sure she was a triathlete. And but no matter what, she would just say at the end, "That was fabulous." And she didn't mean it was fabulous because she beat me, just the experience. And So when she was, I think it was 55, she was diagnosed with brain cancer. And so it's in the chapter, I won't die without writing letters to my loved ones. And so I'll jump in here. She had asked her oncologist how much time she had, and he didn't want to answer. And then she pushed him and said weeks or months, and he replied weeks. And when her husband Doug recounted that conversation, I thought, how many of us could ever ask such a question? But it was what happened next that I found truly extraordinary. In facing her impending death, Jackie transformed what was already a profile in courage to a tale of determination that I had not personally witnessed before. She took care of business. She canceled the credit cards. She gave her clothes to her sisters. She taught her husband how to pay their bills. And then she planned her funeral. And she met with her priest every week and chose her own service and her favorite reflections and so on and so forth. But she had one other project. Every night for weeks, she wrote letters to our children, Doug recalled. In fact, Jackie wrote multiple letters to each child to be opened at different life milestones. She said she wanted to be present with her kids at these different junctures. Graduations, marriages, the births of what would have been their grandchildren. And I heard about these letters from Doug, and then her second-born son, Jerry, had received 2 of his letters, and he shared them with me. And he wrote, "The letters my mother left me are among the most precious gifts I possess. Yeah. She diligently took the time, the very little time left as her life was coming to an end, to sit down and think about her children's futures." And I've seen these letters, and I've never seen your handwriting, and my handwriting is terrible, but Jackie learned to write in the 1950s and had this perfect cursive penmanship. The G's kind of that went like this, and the F's and so on. And really, I think, a work of art. And she wrote them in blue ink on this white lined paper. And here's part of this letter to her son Jerry, who was then 19. "Dear Jerry, my budding filmmaker, I know you have a lot of emotions running through you, as I did when my father died, but I was much older than you at the time. So I can't really begin to comprehend what you were feeling. I am so incredibly sorry that I had to die while you were so young, and I assume it sucks for you. Perhaps you can use some of these emotions and feelings in your upcoming works, assuming you continue to pursue film. Let me assure you that I did absolutely everything I could to stay alive for as long as possible. I know you realize that, having been with me at many of my treatments or tests, plus the acupuncture, tons of praying I also did. But for some reason, I just didn't make it as one of the chosen ones to be cured. But because of what I did, I'm sure I lived much longer than if I hadn't been in good shape to begin with." She goes on to say, "I'm incredibly proud of you for everything you have done in your relatively short life. I will be watching over you every day to see what new and exciting things you will accomplish, regardless of what you pursue as a job." And then she ends it, "Try and live your life fully, happy, and fulfilled. I love you more than you'll ever know, my dearest Jerry." And then in that handwriting, she writes, "Love, Mom." And I just thought that her courage in being able to do this for each of her children, she was partly paralyzed at that point. It showed a determination and a gift, a real gift that she was able to provide them that would last a lifetime. And I hear her voice when I read this passage aloud, and I'm very grateful to the Zinn family and to Jerry in particular for allowing me to include her letters in this book.
It's a wonderful legacy.
It is, and we should all have one such as that. So you know what, Jeannie? Here's where I'm supposed to say we're about out of time. Switch over to Christina.
I think people are just marvelous, aren't they? So multifaceted and so surprising. I think we've seen so many different faces during this time, you know? The resilience is incredible.
Yeah. You know, and I guess one last thing that I would like to say is one of the things I learned after the book was published, and you asked me earlier, I'm quite open about many things, you know, was that if we can be vulnerable with each other, if we can be open with each other, whether we're a red stater or a blue stater or this or that or that, this vulnerability and openness allows us to connect. And we need to connect more in these times. They're challenging times, and I think part of the reason they're challenging is we feel lonely, we feel dislocated and isolated. So there's maybe a little bit more in this book than I had even intended.
Well, and it's beautiful.
Thank you, Jeanne.
So I want to remind everyone watching that now is a good time to post questions if you have them for Steven or for Dear Abby, for Jeannie. And then we do have one in here. So what do you both think are the most stupid thing that you don't want to do, or is the most stupid thing that you don't want to do when you get old? So there you go.
Ladies first, or would you like me to go first, Ms. Phillips?
Oh my God. She caught me flat-footed. I would have liked to have had more time to answer that, but I think the answer is marry a much younger man.
Was Walter a much younger man?
He was 3 years younger.
That's younger.
I called him my boy toy.
I love that. I love that.
How about you, kiddo?
You know, I saw this struggle, especially with my dad, who had a neurological ailment, and it affected his balance and his muscle strength. And he was a very proud man, and he didn't want to appear to use a cane or later, a walker or any of those tools that can help us preserve some amount of independence. And so I'm hoping that. So I have a lot of my father's vanity and plenty of my mother's vanity, but I hope that I won't be caught in the same way, and that I'll see that we have tools that we can use that will allow us to live more as we had, even though at first it may seem like we're constricting, what we do. And one of them would be I have started getting my hearing checked, still okay, but I hope that when I need a hearing aid, I will get it. Just as when I needed glasses, I got them. There's a stigma still about hearing aids, even though they're not the banana boats that we remember from our parents and our grandparents.
Do you think that we end up making the same mistakes, even though, or acting just like our parents, even though we set out not to?
Well, I'll speak for myself here. My grandmother on my father's side was equally as stubborn as my dad and as myself. She refused to leave the house when she was older and was also falling. And she wound up having a terrible fall that kind of led to things, but she wanted to age in place. My dad did exactly the same thing. And I wonder, I think I'm a little bit more aware of these issues. I hope I am. But is our genetics going to kick in, and am I going to follow suit? I hope not. That's partly why I wrote the book, but I wonder and I fear it.
Okay, here's a question for Steven. Steven, do you think you'll find different stupid things to do when you get old?
Well,
cute.
I thought when I started the list and the book, I was just going to keep adding things forever. And then about 4 years ago, which is when I turned 60, I realized, no, that's not true. I mean, I can still add things, but I need to start acting on not doing some of these things. And so for instance, I was trying to get a book off my bookshelf not that long ago, and it was at the very top. And although I had a stepladder in the closet, I decided to put one foot on the chair and one foot on my desk, and I'm kind of balancing it precariously. I'm not even wearing shoes, and I still can't reach the book, and I'm jumping up, and I'm thinking, this is stupid. This is what I'm talking about. Got the book, but then I did make the vow to use the stepladder. So now I'm implementing the list. I'm still adding on to it, but at a certain point, this acceptance of we're not exactly who we are, and we want to preserve as much as who we are is important. So I don't want to fall off the desk in an attempt to
break a hip.
Yeah, break a hip. That's not a good thing. I know how active you are, though, Jeanne. So you walk every day, and that's wonderful.
I try, absolutely. I'm pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Because I work out but it's almost like if you slow down, they'll catch you. Mm-hmm. And so I just make a point of not freezing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look amazing. You're just beautiful. And here's a question for you, Jeanne. Is it hard to keep your advice fresh? How do you manage to continue finding ways to help others?
No, it's not hard to keep my advice fresh because pretty much what I'm advising is common sense. Every problem is different. Some people like Sudoku. I find trying to resolve these little puzzles, these dilemmas for people is mentally stimulating. I enjoy very much doing it, and frankly, I'm honored that people would trust me with their anxieties, trust me with their pain. It really is an honor. It's not hard to keep if you answer the question, be brief, just answer the question, okay? I have found that people really appreciate not having to breaststroke through the verbiage to get to the nugget.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question, Christina, or whoever?
Absolutely. What a great answer. So hang on, here's another one. Okay, someone would like to know, Brenda would like to know, how did Steven and Abby meet?
I promise never to tell. I promise.
It was in a park one evening.
A very dark park.
Yeah. We were introduced by a mutual friend.
Yes, our dear friend Eric Marcus.
Yes.
Introduced us about 10 years ago when I had another book that came out, and Jeanne,
which is on the bookshelf in my office. It's the one about gay etiquette.
Yes.
Excellent, and valuable volume because more people are coming out, and it's just nice to know what to do, how to do it right.
Well, and you and your mom, were such leaders on LGBT issues and acceptance and love, and I know I can't speak for my community, but I know I can speak for many because they really appreciate and respect you because your words carry so much weight with so many Americans. And so I want you to know, how grateful so many are for that.
Thank you.
And and so we met. We didn't actually meet, but we became friendly, and we kept going back to the park. And then I live here in North Carolina, and Jeanne was coming this way. I think it was in July.
Yeah.
He invited me to dinner, and we actually met.
It was so neat.
Yeah.
There you are.
I know.
Yeah.
But you had spent 10 years corresponding or just
talking?
Yeah.
Although he hated every minute of the talking, but he's accommodated me.
That's not.
Listen, I tried. I really tried. I mean, I think there was one communication that was so terrible that it was so garbled. I think I was just one letter off on my keyboard for the whole line. It was so bad. I just told him I had to give up drinking before I texted.
It wasn't so bad. I know exactly what you were saying, but
thank you.
Can you share with us what inspires you?
Who? Me? Him?
Both of you.
He inspires me. This is a man who is intellectually accomplished and modest and funny and quite sensitive and wonderful. He inspires me.
Well, I'm going to keep it in the family. So you inspire me. And I talk in the book about this concept of being a perennial versus being a millennial or a boomer. And perennials are people who remain curious and engaged and active. You can be a perennial at age 25 or 50 or 79. Jeannie, you're a perennial. You are present, you're living, you stay curious. And I think that is so important for all of us. And you live that and you show me that. And, in that way, you inspire me and so many others.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That is so beautiful. I love that. A perennial instead of a millennial. I love that. So I think we've come
He should write.
He should write, right? Exactly.
Maybe.
What are you working on next? Speaking of writing.
That's for me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am working on a book that sort of extends the TED Talk that I did. And that was 3 Ways to Practice Civility. And so this book will kind of look at the hard situations that we have in this country among our people and examine ways that we can come together, learn together, start to feel more of the we, not me. That seems to be a major virus in this country, in addition to the other virus that we often talk about. So that's a very early stage project.
That's great. That's great. That sounds really fascinating. I haven't seen your TED Talk, but I plan to look it up in 16 languages. And how many millions of people have watched it? Oh my God.
Now go figure.
Wow.
It was one of the hardest. It was frankly one of the hardest things that I did. You have to deliver in real time, and it was very challenging. Glad I did it, but
you did it. Well, it's always good to challenge yourself. Like always come out of your comfort zone, keep trying new things, keep growing. Thank you for sharing yourself so openly, sharing of yourself so openly. Thank you to everyone watching. Thank you for joining us in our little virtual bookshop, for supporting independent bookstores. It's truly an honor to have you, Jeannie, to have you with us. Someone who has, is a cultural icon and has been an inspiration to so many. Thank you for that. And just
it was a pleasure to join you. Really, it's been fun meeting you, and thank you for letting me be part of this.
Absolutely. So I'll just remind everyone watching that if you haven't already, press that green button and order this book. You should immediately, and we'll ship it right out to you. And if you're in Miami, there you go. There it is. All right. Beautiful. Stupid things I won't do when I get old. If only.
I'd just also like to again thank Jeannie for joining me today, and to thank you and Mitch and the rest of the staff at Books and Books.
Of course.
And books are fundamental to democracy, and so I hope people will buy just lots of books, whatever books that they're buying from you guys.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we have a lot of very loyal customers, thank goodness, who have followed us into the virtual universe and are still ordering online. And it's thanks to them that, we can keep our literary community going. So, and thanks to you, both of you. So stay safe. Maybe we will see each other in person one day.
Hopefully.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
That would be lovely.
Okay, well then I will say goodnight to everyone and be well.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Talk to you soon on the phone, Jim.